Hello, my name is Julie Kissick. I run the sports journalism degree at the University of South Wales. I'm a journalist, and by default that makes me a storyteller. And today I would like to tell you the story of a business that managed to diversify and adapt, survive and indeed thrive during a global pandemic. If I'd asked you a year ago to picture the scene I'm about to describe, you'd probably have struggled. But it's become an all too familiar lived experience since the news broke last March that the COVID-19 pandemic was about to impact on lives worldwide in ways that we'd never known before. Over the last 10 months, we've been bombarded with negative news. Disaster, death, disappointment everywhere we look. The retail sector has been one of the hardest hit globally. Businesses in practically every sector of the economy have been impacted in some way, most of them negatively. Falling sales, furloughed or laid off employees, or disrupted supply chains. What used to be a run-of-the-mill navigation experience for most businesses is now, in many cases, completely uncharted. In the United Kingdom, our high streets are battling for survival as a result of the pandemic, with many big-name brands under threat. The Centre for Retail Research revealed that companies from Laura Ashley to Debenhams, Benson's for Beds to DW Sports have all called in the administrators during the pandemic. Many well-known companies were negatively impacted by the lack of footfall caused by lockdowns and consumers changing their shopping habits because of the virus. Sadly, none of the above is shocking anymore. The situation is all too familiar to all of us. But there is hope. Research from Barclays Corporate Banking shows that 15% of UK companies have created roles specifically to cater to an increase in digital sales and to boost online capacity. It also shows that retailers are looking at localised supply chains and increased support from communities. Diversifying and adapting is key to survival. It's within that context that I wish to share the story of the survival of a business which answered the call to arms which followed the outbreak of the pandemic and diversified and adapted its offering accordingly. The business is a gin company which launched in Wales in 2017. A desire to survive and serve saw the husband and wife team behind it make significant changes to the production and distribution of their products in 2020. For some context, alcohol retailer Threshers claimed that the alcohol industry had experienced a ginaissance in recent years, predicting an increase in gin sales of 37% in 2021. And prior to COVID-19, the business I'm talking about was certainly reaping the benefits of the popularity of the drink. The company has an eco-friendly ethos, and at the start of 2020, its focus was on the February launch of a refill station at one of its local wine merchants, which, if successful, would be rolled out nationally. The plan was to extend this to having similar refill stations available at similar outlets, offering an eco-friendly way of buying their products while fulfilling the tagline they'd adopted of saving money and raising awareness of the power of reusing and refilling. However, COVID-19 had other ideas. Within a month, the rollout had to be put on hold because of the outbreak and the lockdowns which followed. And the company's owners were forced to rethink their business plan as well as their priorities. The stick or twist conversations were had. The scene beyond the cocoon of their family-run enterprise looked bleak, but there was an overriding sense of wanting to make a positive impact, which ultimately drove them on. Following conversations with friends and family, and with a desire to maintain the values of the company as family friendly and community focused, they took a leaf out of Morrish's book, pursued an entrepreneurial approach to the problem, looking closely at their products, the market, their premises, and manufacturing capabilities, as well as the sales platforms they were using. They diversified, both via the launch of an online sales and distribution platform and in terms of the products they offered. They wanted to support the efforts of frontline workers as well as their local community by using their distillery for good. They decided to produce hand sanitizer. Never had there been such a call for a product, but the growing demand for wellness and health goods, coupled with a rising rate of infections, meant that it was the perfect product to produce. And in keeping with their desire to support those living closest to them, they announced that they would provide alcohol-based hand sanitizer and alcohol spray free to the local community. Within a day of the news being posted on their company Facebook page, they followed up with a comment which said they'd been so overwhelmed with responses that they were struggling to cope with them. Cope they did, though. Requests for help flooded in, from the daughter of a woman with cancer, a mother whose 2-year-old had had pneumonia 3 times in his short life and was unable to get hand sanitizer anywhere, from the owner of a cafe who wanted them for their staff and customers, and so it went on. And alongside them came the plaudits from people who wanted to offer their support by posting positive comments on social media. Comments like, "This is a brilliant thing to do," and "What a wonderful way to help," and "Totally interested in your gin and the sanitizer. Wonderful," in brackets, "as is your delicious gin." In 10 days, they supplied nurses, GPs, 3 of the local hospitals, as well as care homes and homeless charities locally. And when the childcare centres set up for the children of key workers asked for some, they supplied them too, although such was the demand that they had to have theirs in gin bottles to begin with. They even offered free or discounted products to those outside of their community who couldn't afford them, but who needed them. The changes to their production and distribution process saw them work with the local MP to ensure that any regulatory issues were overcome, and the couple also enlisted the help of their 2 children to ensure supply and demand targets were met. It became a real family affair. But some of you are wondering about the gin, aren't you? Well, you'll be pleased to know that they also adapted their primary product by reducing the size of their gin bottles, which meant that they were easier and cheaper to post, and they launched a set of gift package bottles aimed at the Christmas market. They also launched a bespoke virtual gym garden package aimed at replacing Christmas parties while allowing participants to gather together while in their own homes. This is a real-life example of what Matsumo et al. Class as business diversification, where firms with an entrepreneurial mindset display commitment to innovation, risk-taking, and proactivity. I hope this story has sparked hope by describing a performative utopia where the power of personal stories helps us all, despite our current circumstances, imagine a better world than the one that we're living in. Thank you for listening.